If the fence rests, let's lay it down. Gonna dig deep, wave that verdict round. The defense rests, time to analyze. With the evidence, we'll unveil the crime. Justice served in an honest fight. True crime tales till the verdict's right. Solving more than just trivial quests, where sentences rule at the defense rests.
Good morning. Howdy doody. Welcome to the Defence Rests yet again. Thank you for being here. A bad hair day, but at least it's not a bad pause day. I got 2 for 2. Both streams set up really bad pauses, so I decided to make a competition out of it and caption this. So check out the community page or the post page. It's called now, I think. YouTube have changed it. So yeah, pop your caption for the bad pause pick in the comments. And we also have our inaugural Every Child Dipshit Award. So today is day 3 of the start. Cut that, edit it. Today we're starting the preliminary hearing for the Nazia Harris case. And it's a trigger warning, so it involves a minor and SA. So be warned. I haven't watched it, I've heard, but apparently it's not visual, it's in text messages, and yeah, and it's not nice, apparently, not nice at all. So I've decided to start this one because we're covering it in the podcast Saturday week. So, and there's I think there's 3 full days of the hearing. It's huge. It's a preliminary hearing. So I thought we'd cover a couple of hours before the trial starts, before we cover the Megan Boswell day 3. So nominate your dipshit awards for both. So that's just by typing their name in all caps in chat. Good morning, my darling. I thought I would start this one a bit earlier so that we can get the 2 in, because I need to get this one sorted before next weekend. So that's what's happening. But yeah, I've realised that I've got 2 really horrible ones together. Sorry about that. But yeah, so bad pause. I went to load this up and queue it up, and that's what I that's what I ended up with. So I've put it in the community page so that you can have a go at captioning it, because I got 2 for 2. This is the other one. Oh, share the page. Yep. So I chose the other one to do the bad pause. Lost my banner. There we go. All right, we're back and running. Good morning, Mr. Udahat. I was a tad late this morning, and there is a good reason for that. You see, I was doing a very special bit of editing on a little project that came across my desk. It's called The Many Faces of Udahat. Oh, come on, where's the... You didn't see what the comment was. It said, she's a hottie. Yeah, I only managed to get a couple. Oh, that was your avatar. Didn't work very well. Good morning, Christine. Yeah, that was a bit shit. Sorry. Did you like the cartoon one? Oh dear. Yeah. I have to amuse myself somehow. Otherwise, I get distracted. Generally so. Good morning, Anna. How are we? Oh, we're all here. So yeah, this is nasty. This is the nasty, nasty one, apparently. So trigger warning out there. All right. So it's a preliminary hearing of Jarvis Butts. Now, Naziah Harris. Actually, no, I'll play the prelude. I'll play. Hang on, because we all know that Jodie likes to do this. It's my thing. So, ready?
Here we go again, my friends. The novelty that never ends. You know that I cannot survive without doing a deep, deep dive.
Yep, that just happened. All right, let's add this to stage. And
His parents were involved in a tragic incident. Her mother, who was pregnant at the time, was shot and killed in a drive-by shooting in 2018. This was devastating to an 8-year-old Naziah, now having to be raised by her grandmother. On January 9th, 2024, 13-year-old Naziah Harris got off the school bus in the area of Cornwall Street and 3 Mile, which is near the intersection of Warren Avenue.
That picture on the bottom right is picture from the hearing, and the picture on the top left I took from Google Maps the other day to try and get the same street, same corner. I just tried to get the same current, because this is it's only just gone 12 months on, I think, the 9th of January, I think it was.
An outer drive on Detroit's east side. She was supposed to return home to her grandmother's house where she lived, but never arrived. The grandmother, however, did not report her missing until the following day. Naziah's grandmother said that she started getting concerned when she learned she didn't get home that night, but she still waited until the morning of January the 10th to report her missing to authorities.
She's my dipshit nomination.
Investigators later revealed that instead of catching the school bus as normal, there is a video footage and text messages to confirm that she was actually picked up by her uncle Jarvis.
Uncle.
After being picked up, Naziah was last seen at Jarvis Butts' car mechanic shop in Detroit. Harris allegedly met up with Butts that day, and the two reportedly went to Yosemite before returning back to Detroit, where Butts then checked them into a motel. Some relatives of the 13-year-old Naziah Harris' fractured family believe the registered sex offender Jarvis Butts is responsible for her disappearance in early January. Jarvis was actually in a relationship with Naziah's aunt, Shannon, and subsequently fathered 6 children with her. Not only that, the aunt was well aware of his sex offender status. I believe this was about to come out, that he was having an inappropriate relationship with Naziah, sexually assaulting her, said one of the teen's cousins. On the same day Naziah went missing, Jarvis Butts was scheduled to turn himself into authorities on a gun charge.
It gets
However,
better.
that was pushed back to the February.
Worse.
Now let's dig into Jarvis Butts a little deeper, even if the mere thought of that makes your skin crawl. Who is Jarvis Butts?
Appropriate
Jarvis
name.
Butts is a 42-year-old man from Detroit, Michigan, who's currently in custody in connection with the disappearance of 13-year-old Naziah Harris. He has a history of sexual misconduct involving minors. He's been charged for reportedly sexually abusing 2 other young girls,
No.
as well as a conviction for sexually assaulting someone in 2005. Prosecutors called Butts a serial child rapist.
I really need to be careful with my words on this one, I think. You hear the Maggie's in the
Prosecutor
background.
called Butts a serial child rapist who sexually assaulted an 8-year-old family member and a girlfriend's 4-year-old
I think we're going to have to call it intimate relations or something like that. Because this one's going to be nasty.
daughter, who reportedly caught chlamydia from the assault.
Yay. Gift that keeps on giving. She's beautiful.
Evidence indicates that Naziah and Butts exchanged explicit text messages before her disappearance,
And they get read out.
suggesting that not only had they been in an intimate relationship for approximately 2 years, but that Naziah was also pregnant at
2 years. So she was 13 when she disappeared. Do the math.
age 13. Text records allege that Butts knew Harris was pregnant and that he began searching online about abortions, abortion pills, and drinking red antifreeze. Authorities believe Butts has been sexually abusing Harris since 2022, before killing her in January in 2024.
Now, the theory out there is that apparently a home remedy miscarriage was perhaps performed, and that was what went wrong.
Prosecutors said he had a history of targeting and befriending women
Yep.
to get close to to get close to them and sexually abuse their daughters. The preliminary examination we will be covering was held this year on January the 6th, 2025, almost 12 months to the date of her disappearance. In fact, only 3 days, to determine if there was enough evidence for Jarvis Butts to actually stand trial in the suspected murder of Naziah, even though to this day she still hasn't been found. Butts is currently facing charges including premeditated murder. However, the investigation is still ongoing. This is the last photo ever taken of Naziah Harris.
She's just gorgeous. Just gorgeous. Very, very sad. All right. So this is just a quick, I think, 10-minute police report that happened just as she went missing.
To some developing news right now. Detroit Police Chief James White is holding a press conference on a missing 13-year-old girl who hasn't been seen since January 9th. This update coming from Shoemaker and Garland. We hope to learn if there's significance to this location and the investigation. It just started. Let's listen in.
That's fine. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here. I want to just start off before I bring up Chief Jackson from Detroit Public Schools Police Department and to what brought us here today. On February 12th, we had a briefing on this missing child. Yesterday, we had a much more comprehensive and detailed meeting where he brought forth a number of different factors as to what occurred and what they have been working on. We left that meeting with some very serious concerns about Naziah's safety, and I'll bring up Chief Jackson at this time to give you an overview, and I'll be coming back up to talk about the details. Chief Jackson.
Good afternoon. Back on January 9th, we believe Miss Naziah Harris did not return home from school. She was a student at Clark Elementary. January 10th, her family went about the process of reporting her missing. We began our investigation at that point. We began working back, following through her on her last known steps, possible person she was in contact with, some of her school-age friends. gathering different information. As we begin to work back through that information with our local, state, and federal law enforcement partners, information that we obtained has led us to this point here. At that point, we reached out to Chief White to let him know the developments that we had. And so at that point, we decided that this investigation had kind of gone past the four walls of our building, and Chief White stepped in to help us out.
Anyone else going to say it? Anyone? No? How are you doing, Chief Jackson?
Chief White.
All right, thank you, Chief. So again, after our meeting yesterday, we were very, very concerned. I made the decision.
That would be a controversial surname, I'm tipping, in Detroit.
At that time, that we will take lead on this investigation.
Oh, Lord, I said that out
we'll
loud.
be bringing in our local, federal, state partners, a very concerned community, our Board of Police Commissioners, our civic leaders, every single person to assist us in bringing little Naziah home. That's the goal here, is to do everything we can to bring her home. We have debriefed on a number of different factors. We're hopeful that we find her well.
Skip to the next one.
And safety of 13-year-old Naziah Harris, who has been missing since January 9th.
Oh, we're going to repeat the same thing over and over? Probably should have pre-watched it.
And within my sphere of influence, to be able to work with the chief and this department to ask the clergy, ask every community person out here, all the block clubs, come out for this baby. I plead with you. And I'll say, if you are holding...
Do you know what? The only sermon I reckon I would go to would be one there, where they do all the singing. Come on. Oh, play.
If someone is harboring her or keeping her against her will, please let her go. If any children or friends or neighbors or anyone who've seen her, please speak up. It is extremely important, and we are very concerned. The community is very concerned for the safety of her return. Thank you.
Flyers. We've been calling people. We've been knocking on doors. We have
done some of
everything, and we're asking anybody that has any information.
The mom,
the mother, yeah,
okay.
Grandma, yeah. So
mom,
the mother, yeah,
Naziah was actually living with her grandmother.
Grandmother, right.
I love her hair.
I'm asking anyone that knows anything about my granddaughter, please contact the police department. She's been missing for a very long time. Naziah is a very sweet child. This is not of her character. We've been looking for her. We've been passing out flyers. We've been calling people. We've been knocking on doors.
Would have been nice if you'd reported her the day she went missing. Who leaves a 13-year-old out all night? They didn't come home. In Detroit.
We have done some of everything, and we're asking anybody
All right,
that has
Mr. Dreadlocks, is it?
thank you.
I would like to say that this is serious.
Oh.
As we can see, it's not just about the police. It's about the community. This really touches home with our grandchildren and our children and friends and family in the neighborhood. So some people may think it's all about the police. It's all about the community working in coalition together. Somebody has seen this young child and just overlooked it and thought it was business as usual. But we want it to be known that this...
Okay, we get the drift. Don't need to watch all of that. I thought that was going to be way, way better than that. My bad. All right, where's mine? Okay, so I think I've got them in. There's so many. It wasn't covered in the mainstream and there's bits and pieces everywhere. So I think I've got them in the right order. This is a 4-minute clip, apparently, on his priors.
Right now, Jarvis Butts is awaiting trial for the murder and sexual abuse of Neziah Harris.
After listening to days of testimony last month, a judge called Butts a monster and said that opportunities to protect the 13-year-old girl were missed. Tonight, the 7 investigators are revealing years of warnings that preceded Butts' alleged crimes.
Warnings that family members say were made to Children's Protective Services that could have saved Neziah's life. Here's what 7 investigator Ross Jones has uncovered.
You look at that face and you do not see the horrors that she had gone through in her short life. The exploitation, the molestations, the sexual abuse, and the pregnancy that she was concealing.
Years before Jarvis Butts would be charged by Wayne County's prosecutor, accused of killing and sexually abusing 13-year-old Neziah Harris, Harris's own relatives say they saw the warning signs.
Really?
And told anyone who would listen.
Really? Because according to people in the know, Jarvis Butts had a like an auto shop of some sort, and apparently he was allowed to take children down there unaccompanied to teach them how to tinker on cars. Tinker. Who, in their right mind, knowing his status, would allow that.
So that at that point, I was like, this is too much. I'm calling CPS.
I tried not just once, but multiple times for them to take me serious in what I was saying.
Kiwana Morton and her cousin Jernell are both relatives of Neziah Harris. In February of 2022, Jernell says she learned of allegations of improper touching involving Butts.
Well, maybe the grandmother wasn't aware, but the aunt, Shannon, was.
And other small children. She says she was told about the claims while talking to her niece, Jarvis Butts' girlfriend, and that the alleged victims were Neziah Harris and 2 other children.
I was just like, oh my God, I was not crazy. This needs to be looked into.
She says she took the claim seriously in part because Butts was on the sex offender registry, having spent more than 8 years in prison for third-degree criminal sexual conduct. She didn't alert authorities at first because she believed her niece would notify police. But weeks later, Jernell did notify Child Protective Services. Her complaint came in on April 13th, 2022. There was an incident at a birthday party, the complaint reads. One of the children that attended the party accused Jarvis of sexual abuse. Neziah, and name withheld, reported that Jarvis touched both of them inappropriately as well. Jarvis touched, name withheld, in her private area, and it hurt. Jernell made the complaint over the phone.
They basically told me if they needed me for anything else, they would reach out.
The next day, Jernell would receive a text from her niece, Butts' girlfriend, confirming that CPS had contacted her. CPS called me, the text reads. They called about the well-being of my kids. Then they called back to get Jarvis info. A CPS spokeswoman would not tell 7 News Detroit.
He had 6 children to him, and apparently he fathered 13 within the family group.
If investigators ever questioned Neziah Harris after receiving the complaint. But we do know it wasn't the only complaint filed with CPS naming Jarvis Butts.
And it wasn't easy for me to call Protective Services just because of the horror stories that you hear.
Kiwana Morton said she heard about the same allegations against Butts from a conversation with his girlfriend. 2 months after her cousins called to CPS, she would file her own complaint.
I told them that there's a problem and they need to be aware of it. I am 90% sure that there's sexual abuse going on within the home.
Did you specifically mention Jarvis by name?
Yes, absolutely.
Internal CPS records we obtained show that investigators looked into that complaint, conducting a face-to-face interview with Butts, who strongly denied the allegation. A forensic interview was conducted with the alleged victim, and
one of them was as young as 4. 4.
No disclosures were made. CPS said the home was clean and free of observed safety concerns. The
Oh, that's
allegation was
nice.
denied,
Except a different
assigned a
safety.
low risk level. These are 2 complaints of at least 5 filed with CPS since 2015 naming Jarvis Butts.
But the
They
house was
allege
clean.
concerns about possible molestation, physical abuse, or living conditions. Some of the complaints are generic, and none would ultimately substantiate that Butts was improperly touching children. Just over a year after the last complaint on record, Butts would be charged with sexually assaulting and murdering Neziah Harris.
I'm brokenhearted
He is now.
because this could have been prevented. All of it could have been prevented.
Yep.
Attorneys for Jarvis.
All right. Next. Why can I still hear that? Oh, it's the other child started. Mute. Pause. I'm like, what's in my ears? All right, so let's get into the hearing, shall we? I think I've got it in the right. There we go, this one. So this is this year. In January 6th, I think it started. Oops.
May I proceed, Judge? Yes. Thank you. Could you state your name for the record, ma'am?
Tashiana Davis.
And Ms. Davis, I want to ask you about someone by the name of Jarvis Butts. Do you know that person?
Yes,
And how do you know Mr. Butts?
he was my fiance.
And do you see Mr. Butts
It
in
was
the courtroom
it's
today?
her fiance.
Could you point to him and identify a piece of clothing that he's wearing?
She's right there with a green top on.
So that is Aunt Shannon. Mm-hmm. Yep.
For the record, the witness has identified the defendant, Jarvis Butts, in this matter.
So reflective.
Thank you. And how long, you said he was your fiance.
Yes.
How long in total have you known Mr. Butts?
4 years.
And-
Since 2019.
2019?
How the hell did you have 6 kids?
Is that a yes?
Yes.
And when did you become engaged?
2023.
And can you tell us a little bit about the nature of that relationship? Do you have any children with him? Things like that.
No children.
Okay.
What?
And would Mr. Butts sometimes stay over at your house?
Yes.
How often would that happen?
Pretty often, but we didn't live together.
Okay. I want to take your attention back to January of 2024 and February of 2024. Did there come a time when Jarvis Butts asked you to drive him to court?
Yes.
And when was that?
February 7th.
Of 24?
Yes.
And was there a time before that that you had to drive him to court?
Yes.
And when was that?
January, I think it was the 9th.
Who the hell had the
It
6
was in
kids?
January.
So you've at least driven him to court twice?
Yes.
And let's talk about the January 9th date that you drove him. What was the reason he wasn't driving himself? Why were you driving him?
Because he thought he was gonna have to turn himself in then for another case, and then they rescheduled it.
Okay, so on the 9th, he was supposed to turn himself in, but didn't actually end up doing
I
that.
think that was on a gun
Okay.
charge.
And then on the 7th, did he ask you to drive him to court again?
Yes,
And what was the reason that you drove him to court on the 7th?
because he was supposed to turn himself in.
And did he end up turning himself in on the 7th?
Yes.
Okay. When you were driving him on the 7th of February 2024, first, what kind of car do you drive?
2005 Suburban,
And what color is it?
tan,
And when you were driving him to court, who else was with you, if anyone?
nobody.
Just you and Mr. Butts?
Yes,
And when you were driving to court, did you ask him about his cell phone?
yes.
What did you ask him?
I said, where's your phone?
And what was his response when you asked him that question?
He left it at home.
And did you have any other conversation regarding his phone on the 7th when you were driving him to court?
No.
And what did he, you said he did turn himself in?
Yes,
And so you drove back home, correct?
yes,
Did you eventually have some contact with the police department?
yes,
And where were you when you had that contact?
in the hospital.
And what did they ask you about generally?
Did I know?
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Anything about a missing child?
And
I'll
do
watch
you know
that.
anything about missing child?
No.
Did they ask you about his cell phone?
Yeah, I believe so.
And did you know or have any reason to believe, other than what Jarvis told you, that his phone was someplace else?
No.
And did you know that his phone was in your car?
No.
Did you give permission to the police to search your car?
No, they just came in today.
They had a search warrant?
Yeah.
Okay. And were you present at your house when they came and took your car?
No.
And did you observe them search through your car and pull anything out?
No.
Oh. May I have one moment, Judge?
Yes.
And you said you knew Jarvis Butts for 4 years?
Yes.
And would you communicate with him via cell phone?
Yes.
And do you know the last 4 digits of his phone number, if you remember?
9.
If you don't remember,
I don't remember.
okay. With looking at text messages, refresh your memory?
Yes.
May I approach, Judge?
Yes.
If you could just look at the phone numbers on it.
The first one.
And does that refresh your memory?
Yes.
And what were the last 4 digits of Jarvis Butts' phone number?
8719.
At some point after you dropped Jarvis Butts off at the courthouse and he turned himself in, did you go to his place of employment on at 9,000 Connors?
No.
Okay. Did you ever talk to his business partner, Cordell Wright?
No.
Okay. I have nothing further.
Thank you. Morning, Ms. Davis. You met Mr. Butts at Frank's Garage, is that right?
Yes.
And that's where Mr. Butts was working about 4 years ago.
Yes.
You taking your car there?
Yes.
And I think in your words, you said you kind of never left after you met him. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
You guys got along really well?
Yes.
And you just kind of started a relationship from there?
Yes.
Would you go up to the garage after that relationship started?
Yes.
Kind of just to drop in?
Yes.
At any point in time while you were at Frank's Garage, did you ever see any children there?
No.
Is it fair to say that Mr. Butts was very protective of his phone around you?
Yes.
He would never let you see his phone screen.
No.
Wouldn't give you access. Certainly didn't give you his passcode or anything.
We can watch
In
it
fact,
later
you
if
actually
you've got time.
activated into his phone, right?
If you want.
I think you had mentioned that when he was sleeping, you tried to kind of wave it in front of him to see if that would unlock it.
Mhm.
You took a picture of his face once and tried to
Yes.
put the screens together. So you wanted to know what was in his phone.
Yes.
And he did not want you to know what was in his phone,
No.
as far as you know?
Mhm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Did you ever talk to him about why he was so secretive with his phone?
Yes.
And does it have something to do with the fact that he was seeing other ladies?
Yes.
And you suspected that at the time?
Yes.
And so that's why you were looking for proof?
Correct.
Okay. So even though you suspected that Mr. Butts was unfaithful to you, you still stayed with him?
Yes.
One reason for that is because he was good with the kids?
Yes.
He cared for your kids?
Oh,
He took them
good with the
places.
kids.
He took your son up to the shop?
Yes.
He showed him how to change the oil in the car?
Correct.
And you viewed him as a good father figure?
Yes.
Did you ever see anything inappropriate or that would cause you to see a red flag with regard to him and your children?
No.
Did you ever see him acting inappropriately with any other children?
No.
Certainly, if you had, you would not have allowed him in your house.
Oh,
fair to say?
absolutely not.
You knew that Mr. Butts had other children, right?
Yes.
With a woman named Angel
Yes.
and a woman named Shannon.
Yes.
He talked about his children with you.
Yes.
Did he ever talk to you about his niece?
No.
About how often would Mr. Butts stay with you on any given week?
Maybe like twice.
Were they like the same days or was it random?
Random.
Okay. About what time would he come over?
After his work hours. After like 6 o'clock.
Okay, so you think he would come kind of straight from work?
No, he would probably do something else and then be there later on in the night.
Okay, so closer to like 9, 10?
Yes.
Okay. Will he stay the night with you?
To about 2 o'clock in the morning, 3, then we'll leave.
Okay. Do you know how he would get to your home?
A couple of times he was in a white truck, a white Cadillac truck. Sometime I think he would walk. If he was coming straight from the shop, he would walk. Or if he had my truck, that's how we would get back.
And that's the Suburban?
Yes.
Did you know Mr. Butts to ever have his own vehicle?
Yes. He had a white
I sent you a message back, Idhef.
Chrysler truck, van like.
Okay. And when did you know him to drive that?
Like maybe the first 2 years we were together.
Okay. Now, when Mr. Butts would come visit you,
Whose side was he on? Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Sorry.
He parked in your driveway?
Yes.
Would he spend weekends with you also?
Yes.
1 second.
Can you imagine being in a relationship with someone like that and having a sexual relationship with them, knowing, oh, ugh.
All right, yeah, thank you.
Ms. Davis, I just have a couple more questions for you. Ms. Quick asked you about Mr. Butts being secretive with his phone. Can you tell me about a time that you had a conversation with him about him being secretive or something like that?
He would never really say anything. He talked in circles. So if you try to ask him a question, it's just always, you can never get a straight answer out of him.
But fair enough, you had multiple conversations about his phone and your access to it, I guess, or lack thereof.
Yes.
And Ms. Quick also asked you about Mr. Butts staying over the night at your house. You said that he would leave around 2 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Do you know where he would go when he would leave?
No.
Did he ever tell you where he was going?
Home.
Did you know where he himself called home?
Yes.
Where was that at?
Wilshire.
And you said he would walk from his place of employment if he was coming straight from there, right?
Yes.
How far from that on Connors, the auto shop on Connors, do you live? How far of a walk?
No, that was when he was on Warren.
Warren and Neff?
Yes.
How far of a walk from that location?
Like 4 blocks.
And did you ever see him drive but not park in your driveway or up front of your house? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
He parked around the corner and he would walk to my house.
And do you know
he was in the white Cadillac?
You said Cadillac?
Yes.
Oh. Was that an Escalade? If you know.
I don't know.
Okay. And do you know the reason why he would park around the corner?
I don't know. I asked and he would just be like, I didn't drive.
But then would you see his truck?
I would see the truck.
Anyone with-
Yes.
One last question. You said he lived or called home in Wilshire?
Yes.
Have you ever been to that house?
Yes.
Have you ever been inside that house?
No.
No, you've heard of it.
Okay.
Davis, we're down to the line. Watch your step. I'm not going to
Yeah, we have one moment, Jeff.
Yes.
All right.
Your Honor, at this time, people would call Border Patrol Agent Wyatt Barnes.
I don't think he's joined my server yet, Ed have. See if I've got his email.
And I'm going to request permission to share my screen again.
Okay, good morning. Good morning. You swear to tell your whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Just watch yourself. And then you can pull that whole microphone off of the ledge once you sit down.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Good morning. Could you please state your name for the record?
Name's Wyatt Barnes.
How are you employed?
I work for the United States Border Patrol.
And how long have you been employed by the U.S. Border Patrol?
14 years and change.
And were you working back on March 12th, 2024?
Yes.
And in what capacity were you working?
I was working in a search and rescue capacity. That's the primary job, my primary job.
Okay. And were you working alone or with a partner or a group of people?
With a team. There was a sizable team that day.
And what is it that you guys were doing?
We were responding to a missing person in that area.
And which area are we talking about? Where were you at?
7 Mile and Berg.
Okay. And what was your role in searching the 7 Mile and Berg area?
I was searching the riverbank of the River Rouge. We were searching south along the bank. I was on the east side of the bank in the 7 Mile Berg area.
Okay. And when you were searching this area, was there anything in particular that you were told to look for?
Just nothing solid, but there were just some child-sized clothing things, just anything that could have been washed up on the riverbank. There was a storm recently, so we were in the water and on the riverbanks.
Okay, so you're kind of looking for maybe some child-sized clothing.
Yes.
Okay, and did you come across any clothing that you thought maybe would fit the description?
Yes.
Okay, and where was that at?
That was south of 7 Mile and Berg, near a abandoned structure next to a dirt parking lot, about, I can't give an exact distance, maybe 50 feet off.
Okay, and when you find articles of clothing, what is it that you do in your role?
So there's a lot of stuff that might be washed up. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to age it and make sure that it is something that could possibly be related. And then I'm going to just immediately report a picture to the incident command so that they can send people to properly inspect it.
Okay, and when you say age, what do you mean by aging?
Just to make sure that it hasn't obviously been in the brush for years, or it's not some garbage that washed up. That's all.
Okay, and in this search in particular, what was kind of the time frame that you were supposed to be like using to age?
Recent, not like within a month or two.
Okay.
So it would still look new.
And so when you find items, you said that you age them and then you kind of report them to incident command.
Yes.
Okay, and how is it that you report them? Do you go like a walkie-talkie? Do you call them on the phone?
Via radio.
Okay.
Yeah, via radio, and then there's usually some type of a chat, but I wasn't communicating directly on the chat. I just kind of forwarded the photos to a supervisor who then gave the photos to the incident commander.
Okay.
And they would divvy those out to the detectives.
Okay. And what is it that you found in this case?
I found I don't know if this is the right term for it, but like a onesie.
Okay.
It was mostly balled up in the brush with a shoe inside of it. And so I pulled I didn't know it was clothing at the time, but I pulled it out of the brush just to kind of open it up and see what it was. And then once I saw that it was clothing with the shoe inside, I just reported it to the incident command.
Okay, and when you're touching these items, are you wearing gloves?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall, describe the onesie, color, size, anything like that?
Pink.
Okay.
Honestly, the size, small.
And what about the shoes?
Shoe.
The shoes. Shoe that you
It was a
got, right?
small Nike shoe.
Okay.
It was inside the onesie, which was inside out.
Okay, and were you instructed to recover those at the time?
Like bag them and bring them somewhere?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No, that wasn't.
Were you? How do you, I guess, convey to someone where at these items are?
GPS coordinates.
Okay, and did you author like a paragraph report in this case?
Yes.
Okay, and did you include coordinates in that report?
Yes, and they were incorrect in that report. I just went over it yesterday. I do have the correct coordinates if you guys want those.
Okay, yes, could you please provide us with the correct coordinates?
Yes.
And is there something that you're going to be using to refresh your memory?
I have a piece of paper here.
I've reached out to him on X. It's the only way I can find him, but I will now join that.
So
Thank you.
the coordinates that were provided in the paper were for the incident command. These coordinates are very close to where that piece of clothing was found.
Okay.
Their decimal degrees, 42.426693, negative 83.268497.
Okay, so the coordinates that are in your report are where incident command was kind of set up.
That's the incident command, yes.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's already admitted as People's Exhibit 14. I'm going to show just some specific pictures from that. looking at picture 63 here. Tell me, do you recognize anything in this photo?
Yes.
What is it that you recognize?
The pink article of clothing in the shoe.
Okay. And when you initially saw these items, is that how you saw them?
No, they were just balled up in the brush, just kind of stuffed in there.
Okay.
So
Sorry, continue.
I pulled them out and set them that way so the detectives would see it.
Okay. So I'm going to go to photo 69. Is this the shoe that you had found that was inside the leg of the pink jumpsuit? Or
Yes.
onesie? Okay.
Yes, it is.
And 67. Is this
Yep.
a photo of them just from the behind?
Yes,
Okay. And you're the one who kind of took them apart and placed them separately like that.
I did. Yes. Yeah.
All right. And did you do anything else as it relates to this case?
No.
Nothing further, Judge. Oh, sorry, 1 minute. Oh, the coordinates that you gave, are those latitude, longitude?
Yes. Yep.
Nothing further, Judge. Okay.
Well, like decimal degrees. So.
Thank you.
Agent Barnes, you said that you were taking part in a search of the area of 7 Mile and Bird. Was that, how large of an area was it?
I probably searched at that point, not quite half a mile over at that point. So not a
And-
huge area.
And you said you were part of a team?
Yes.
About how many people were out there?
There was multiple counties out there assisting in the search. Honestly, I couldn't give you an exact number. Probably several dozen.
7 dozen?
Several dozen.
Several
There
dozen.
was different teams assigned to different parts of the river.
So different people were assigned to, or different teams were assigned to one like half-mile location, another half-mile location, or coordinates, I guess?
Yes, even smaller than that, smaller sections than that. Yeah, just to keep guys fresh.
And was it like a coordinated effort then to kind of sweep this area?
Yes,
So you're just walking like in a straight line, or
for the most part.
can you describe kind of how that looks?
Yeah. So in the river, I'll go from the river to the banks. So in the river, you have different teams wearing dry suits, using technology, looking for anything that resembles a body, and then sticks to kind of push stuff loose. And then they're searching the log jams in the river. Then you have guys on the edge of the river because the water level was high. So we wanted to cover the river banks as well, which the water level was high and had become lower. Then you have teams on the banks and then teams kind of doing an S pattern along the river edge to make sure they cover as much ground as possible.
Thank you. And so you said that on this particular day, the water level was high.
No, the water level was high the week prior or so. So we wanted to make sure that we covered the river banks where the water was. The water was back to its normal level.
Was there a way to tell where the water level had been previously? Is there a way to mark that?
Sometimes it's just where debris gets caught up in the brush. It was maybe a foot higher, but it wasn't.
Okay. And it was you personally that saw the pink onesie first, or the pink thing that you initially saw?
Yes.
Did you take pictures of it, how it looked when you initially found it?
I didn't. No.
Would you normally do something like that?
There's just so much stuff. I wasn't taking. It would have taken all day if I'd taken a picture of everything I found. So
You stopped and kind of moved it, manipulated it.
I pulled it up to inspect it, noted that it was worthy of reporting, set it back down, radioed it in.
Okay. And how far did you set it down from the location where you initially located
Same
it?
spot.
Exact same spot?
Same brush.
Okay. And you said that part of what you do is kind of to note approximately how long it looks like it's been out there.
Yeah.
And in this particular case, what was it that you kind of found or thought when you noticed it?
There was no discoloration from the sun. You know, typically if something sits outside for a while, the sun's going to change the color that it sees, and then underneath it's going to be a different color. There was no discoloration in the article of clothing. So, and that can happen in weeks. And it's pretty quick. Depending on how much time there is. There was no evidence of animals getting in it. There was no significant dirt. It was just, it looked very fresh.
Done.
Did you find or see any other clothing other than the shoe in that area?
Very old clothing, years old.
Hello,
What,
darling.
for example?
How you doing?
Maybe just old coats, but
How's your legs? Feeling any better? No, I've reached out to him a few times with an invite to ours, but I hadn't actually. I thought he was, but I can't find him. He might be on the other one. But I am on his now, and I reached out to him on X as well. So we should wait and see. It might be actually. Whose side was he on? Was he of the opinion? Or was he Udahef or Jody? Team Udahef or Team Jody? Because it might be interesting to actually have like a debate on it. Like if he's keen, meh.
It was nothing pertinent. Things that were
Many
under
old
layers
posts?
of lots. Yeah, I mean, there's a fair amount of debris.
In that
Under-
general area, in that half-mile area that you were scanning?
Yes.
Okay. Once. Anything else? Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Given that you photographed these and alerted these, did these the pink onesie and the shoe, those matched your aging description that you were following?
There was no age necessarily, if that's what you mean. Like they hadn't been out there for a long period of time.
That's pretty good.
Thank you.
At this time, Judge, people call Sergeant Melanie O'Rourke.
Excellent. Now, don't forget, put your votes in for Dipshit Awards and check out the Bad Pause Pick of the Day in the community tab and caption it in the comments. Bad pause. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when I pause on you?
Tell the truth, no truth, and nothing but. Walk this way, just make sure you watch your step. And also, you can pull that microphone off the ledge if it's easier for you, or just lean into it.
May I proceed, Judge?
Yes.
Did you state your name for the record?
Sergeant Melanie O'Rourke,
What do you do for a living, Sergeant?
Sergeant with the police department,
Which police department?
Detroit Police Department.
How long have you been with the Detroit Police Department?
Approximately 11 years.
And are you currently assigned to a specific precinct or unit within the Detroit Police Department?
Yes, I work at major crimes,
Okay, and what sort of crimes do you investigate at major crimes?
generally homicides.
And how long have you had that role, or have you been
That
in major crimes?
that award has already been given. Your nomination is a little late, unfortunately, but there was a vote for said Cameron, but the defendant won out. Apologies.
I believe since 2016.
And do you do any specific role within major crimes that requires a little bit of training and education to do?
Yes.
And what is that?
I do forensic analysis of
Yeah.
cellular call detail records and tower mapping.
There you go. The winner from yesterday.
New question. Generally, what is called forensic analysis of CDR and tower mapping?
I don't understand your question.
Okay. Have you had any training to do that?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
I've had T-Mobile training. T-Mobile is the prevalent company here in the Metro Detroit area. I've had Excel training. Excel is the format that most of our call detail records come back to us in. I've had cell phone use of drug trafficking training. Penlink training. Penlink is the program that the Detroit Police Department utilizes. It basically puts the records in a readable format. I've had CATS training, which is an acronym for Call Analysis Training School. I've had Penlink training, PLX training, which is an upgraded form of Penlink. Approximately around 450 hours of specialized training in cellular analysis.
Okay, and that 450 hours in that training, does that allow you to utilize that to generate what you said earlier, tower maps based on your analysis of call detail records?
Yes.
Okay, and what are call detail records?
Historical records.
And does that allow you to place certain things based on cell towers on maps to give an approximate location of a particular phone number that's associated with the phone?
Yes.
And have you testified as an expert before in this field?
Yes.
And how many times have you done that?
Over 35 times.
And has that been in Wayne County?
Yes.
And have you testified in 36 districts before?
36 and 3rd, both, yes.
Judge, at this time, I would move to qualify Sergeant O'Rourke as an expert in the field of forensic analysis of call detail records and tower mapping.
No objection.
Okay.
Now, can you describe for the record, when you get call detail records, the process that you would go through to generate maps?
Yes. The OIC, or the officer in charge, would supply a search warrant for a particular target number. We would submit that to the respective cellular company, whether it's T-Mobile, AT&T, or Verizon. They will submit back to us in the form of raw records, usually in Excel format, the call detail records, and other various forms, subscribers, things like that.
And in terms of the call detail records, what is contained in that spreadsheet? What sort of information is contained within that spreadsheet?
It'll be dates, times, locations, the target number in question, any contact ID, who they're having any type of activity with, whether it's a text message, a voice call, the duration. There's multiple things associated with it.
And you talked about location. How are those locations generated and inputted into that spreadsheet?
So these records will supply an actual either latitude and longitude or a location area code or other location information for the cell tower that the, we're just gonna say cell phone in this case, cell phone interacts with.
Okay. And can you describe well, first, silly question, I know, but what is a cell tower? What do you mean by that?
It's the cell towers that you see all over the place. They can be, one of those huge mammoth things that you see. They've got a bunch of cells on there and antennas that you see, or it could be, really small and, but they're all over the place in the city.
And the records provide a indication of which tower it was, that phone number was interacting with at a specific time?
Yes.
And does that allow you to take that information and put it into a map or go through a process to generate that location on a map?
Yes, we actually receive the information and put it into a system called Penlink. And that information will, like I said before, will basically put it in a readable format. So the information that you receive today, that's what you're gonna look at.
Now let's talk about this case. Did you do that, follow your process based on your training for a target number of 313-585-8719?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, and that was a T-Mobile record, correct?
It was.
Okay. And did you generate maps based on your training and experience using Penlink to map that phone number and that phone at specific times related to this case?
I did.
May I approach, Judge?
Yes.
I'm approaching with People's Proposed Exhibits 33 through 39. If you take a look at those, Sergeant, do you recognize what I just handed you?
Yes.
And are those maps that you generated for that target number ending in 8719?
Yes.
At this time, I move to admit People's Proposed 33 through 39, Judge.
Objection? No,
No objection.
there'll be a minute. People's Exhibits 33 through 39.
Thank you, Judge. And permission to publish.
Yes.
And on the screen and in your hand is Exhibit 33. First, I want to talk about what's at the top, very top of this, and what information goes there.
The first row is going to have what's going to be on our calls report, a condensed version. There's going to be a lot more in the actual calls report, but this is the information that exhibits what's in the map down below. So for row 1, which we only have one row in this instance, we're going to have the target device, which is the phone number, and the date, time that was requested. So in this case, it's going to be January 9th of 2024, and the time, which is in UTC time or military time, it's going to be 16:09 or 4:09 p.m. And then the duration, how long the activity lasted. You have a start lag and said that's actually your location information. And then the call type, in this case, it was a voice call. Call status, whether it was completed or not completed. The direction, incoming or outgoing. Did he make the phone call or did somebody call him? And then you have the contact ID, which is who the device was contacting or interacting with.
Okay, and that would have been the phone number that it was, that in this case that we're looking at, an outgoing call was placed to?
Yes.
All right, so let's back up to the date, January 9th, 2024 that's what it says on Exhibit 32, correct?
Yes.
Okay. How do you know to do that date in particular for this case?
So for all of these maps, this was requested by the officer in charge.
That information is supplied to you?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know the details of other parts of this investigation, or are you just taking the information the OIC gives you?
I know the general information, but they asked for a specific date and time, and this is what we place on the map.
Okay. And then moving over to the next row for time, it says 16:09 and 24 seconds, correct?
That's yes.
So that's my next question. You said that that's in UTC time. Can you describe or tell us what UTC time is?
That was the votes, Dylan. That was the votes. Yeah, he had the most.
Time that you have here is in our time, Eastern Standard Time. UTC time is Universal Time Coordinated, and that's going to have, that's like on the world clock. So you're going to have a -4 or a -5. The raw records come back to us in Universal Time Coordinated, and then we turn around and put it in our time so that you can read it and know that what time it happened here.
Oh. And so just to be clear, the 16:09 or 4:09 p.m. is what time it was in Detroit,
yes,
where this one was at 4:09 on January 9th.
Yes.
Okay. And that's a conversion that you have to do based on whether it's -4 or -5.
Yes.
What does that depend on, -4 or -5?
It's the UTC time, Universal Time Coordinated. So it's on the world clock. So our Eastern Standard Time will change, fall back or spring forward based on the summer and the winter. And so during the summertime, it's going to be -4 from UTC time. And then during the winter time, it's going to be -5. So we just put it in so that the time that you have here is Eastern Standard Time.
Okay. And then the two rows over, one next to duration, start, LAC/CID. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that information means and why it's important?
So that's going to be your location information. Your LAC is location area code, and then the SID or CID is your cell ID.
Okay. And that is what allows you to generate, or part of what allows you to generate the map that we see below?
Yes.
Okay. So let's talk about the map that we see below. First, you have those two lines going out in almost a incomplete triangle. Can you tell us what we're looking at there and what's in the middle?
Yes. So the middle part, you're actually looking at a V, and it's going to be about a mile long here in the Metro Detroit area. The cell coverage that you're looking at for any particular tower is usually about a mile. So that V is a representation of the intended area coverage of the cell phone company.
Okay. And then there's a little pie chart in the middle in a little shade. Can you tell us what that means?
Yes, that is the intended area.
Okay, so that's the mile that you were talking about?
Yes.
Okay. And then you have a blue dot located to just above the top line there. Can you tell us what that is indicating?
That blue dot indicates 9,000 Connor, and that was requested to be placed on the map at this particular date and time.
Okay. And so what essentially is your conclusion about this map that we're looking at here? What does all of this mean?
In this particular date and time, so January 9th at around 4:09 p.m., the target device that we're looking at ending in 8719 is consistent with being in the area of the 9,000 Connor.
And how precise is this location? I mean, you say in the area, there's no specific spot that you can say this was at this address. How precise can you get with this?
So we can only tell you what the address and location of the cell tower and their intended coverage. They actually give you that. So you're working with radio frequencies. So it's not going to be an exact V that you see here. You're going to be working with radio waves. So it can be a little bit outside of the V or a little bit inside of the V, but basically this is just to demonstrate, the intended area coverage of the cell phone company.
Okay. Going now to Exhibit 34, which is on the screen. First, is this the same information that we saw in Exhibit 33 across the top of the map in Exhibit 34?
Yes.
Okay. And you have 4 rows here instead of 1. Why do you have 4 rows instead of 1 in this map?
In this instance, the officer in charge requested to see a travel duration. So during the time between, I have 1838 and 1922, there are actually others in between, which you can actually see in the raw record. But to put that many records that happened in between is a lot. So basically we are showing the travel from, the blue dot indicates 9,000 Connor, and then the black dot indicates Ypsilanti. And they wanted to depict the travel from 9,000 Connor down to Ypsilanti during this time period.
And the first time period that you have for row number 1 is 1838 and 16 seconds?
Yes.
So that would be 6:38 p.m.?
Yes.
Okay. And is there a corresponding number on the map that relates to each row.
Yes, on row, you can actually see the row column. So number 1 is going to coincide with number 1, which is just leaving the 9,000 Connor area. And then you see on row number 2, it's depicted on the map as number 2. And it's traveling down 94 west. And then number 3 coincides with line number 3, and then 4 and so on.
Okay, and so your conclusion, correct me if I'm wrong, would be that for number 4, at around 19, 22, and 33 seconds, that phone was in the area of Ypsilanti.
Just west of it.
Just west of it?
I believe there's a little town there, yes.
Oh. And 1923, that would be 7:22 p.m., correct?
Yep.
Going to exhibit 35. And on exhibit 35, which is on the screen now, you have, again, 4 rows, but there's different coloring for that information. Can you describe what we're looking at and what the coloring means?
Yes, so the blue dot indicates 9,000 Connor, again, and the purple dot indicates 13362 Wilshire. And those are the 2 locations that the officer in charge requested to be placed on the map. And they wanted to show that this device was in the area of either of these locations and at what time.
Okay, and so can you tell us about the lines closer to the 9,000 Connor location and what ones those correspond to in your records up top there?
So this is an RTT report or a time in advance report. And the row number 1 and 2, which one is a dark blue line, and the other is a light blue line, all indicate approximately around the area of 9,000 Connor during the time of 2028 and 2042, which is 8:28 p.m. and 8:42 p.m.
Okay, and so is it fair to say that this phone was in the area of 9,000 Connor at those times on January 9th?
It's consistent with being around the area.
And then the other 2, the purple and pink lines, can you tell us about those?
So there's a dark purple and a light purple, and that's around the area of 13362 Wilshire. And those are times of 2048 or 8:48 p.m. and then 2059 or 8:59 p.m. So the RTT information has moved from around 9,000 Connor to 13362 Wilshire during that particular time.
And so does that indicate that the phone was traveling towards the direction of the Wilshire address?
It could have been.
Oh. And you said RTT. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that means?
RTT is a real-time tool or time in advance. Basically, it's a report that T-Mobile will send out, and it's historical location information. It's not necessarily based off of any type of activity. So you're not going to have phone calls during this time. It's not going to be text messages or as long as the phone is on and the cell tower basically, or the base is able to get in contact with the device and back. So basically it's a time that it takes for a base station to send out a signal and then have it received back from the device.
Is it fair to say that that's more of a passive interaction between the phone? There's no input on the phone that's required for this?
There's no input required at all. There's not, any type of cellular activity at that time. It's basically for, efficiency and performance by the network.
Going to exhibit 36 now, which is on the screen. On that first page, you have 8 lines. Can you tell us the reason you have 8 lines and what they're indicating there?
Number 36 is a cause report and tower map of the date and time of January 9th from 22:53 or 10:53 p.m. to January 10th of 2024 at 1:11 a.m.
Okay, so that's the time you're analyzing here is from closer to midnight on the 9th going into the next morning, early morning on the 10th, correct?
Yes.
All right, and going to the second page of this exhibit, can you tell us what we're looking at in this map on the second page of exhibit 36?
In this map, we're looking at rows 1, 2, and 3. So the red dot that you have right there smack dab in the middle indicates 2000 Harper, which is the Park Crest Motel. And then the next slide has a different address associated with it. But what we're looking at right here is the 2000 Harper Park Crest Motel.
And is that in Harper Woods, if you know?
That I don't know.
Oh. That highway that it's just off of, that's 94 highway, correct?
Yes.
Oh. And the 2 towers or the 2 lines that you have here, does that indicate the phone was interacting with those towers at the times in rows 1, 2, and 3?
Yes. You see the dark blue tower on the south side facing north, That's the area coverage, and then you have the light towers up, the light tower up top, the light blue, which is number 3, and that's facing downward, and they encompass the area. They overlap the area of the Parkhurst Motel.
Okay. And the phone was interacting with both those towers at 12:37 in the morning on the 10th?
Between 10:53 and 12:37 a.m.
And then going to the third page of this map, what are we looking at here on the third page, and what rows do they correspond to?
This third page is going to have a purple dot that indicates 4 East Alexandrine, and that is another location that was significant for the officer in charge to place on the map.
And sorry, maybe I missed you saying this. What rows does it correspond to on this map?
And that corresponds with the purple row. So each color represents the call detail records, the color on the call detail record report. So that's going to be row number 8 at 1:11 a.m. on the 10th of January.
And this is all for that target number ending in 8917, correct?
8719.
8719, sorry, thanks. All for the same number.
Yeah, all of these reports are the
Okay.
same number.
And does that indicate to you that the phone moved from that Parkcrest location down to where this is on Alexandrine?
Yes.
Okay. And then the last page of this exhibit, is this just an overview of both of those maps that we just looked at?
Yes, it is. So you'll see in the beginning, or I'm sorry, at the end of the night at around 10:53, it's up at the Parkcrest Motel up there on the northeast side, and then it travels down at around 1:11 in the morning on the 10th down to the purple area.
And that's the Alexandrine.
It is.
Going now to exhibit 37, which is on the screen. And you have that?
I do.
First, can you tell us again what we're looking at in the 3 rows on the first page of this exhibit?
So this is a time in advance report. You've got the row, the target, the day, and these are all in the color black and on the map for the second page. And basically it's showing on January 10th, 2024 from 22:51, which is 10:51 p.m. to 22:53 or 10:53 p.m.
So
on the
later in the day on the 10th.
On the second day, yes.
Okay, and so we moved almost 24 hours, or 20 hours up from the last map, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And if we could go to the second page. And where is this phone interacting with on at the times that you just said later in the day on the 10th?
The information received from the cell phone company is right around Greenfield and 7 Mile.
And is that in the city of Detroit, Wayne County? Sorry?
Yes.
Okay. And going now to exhibit 38. We're looking at a lot more rows on exhibit 38. Can you tell us what we're looking at here?
Yes, this is the time period right after we were looking at 7 Mile and Greenfield. That time was all the way up until 22:53. So here we have from 23:40, which is 11:40 p.m. to 23:59, 11:59 p.m. And this is all on the same night of the 10th.
Okay. And this is so just about 40 minutes after the previous map, correct?
Approximately.
Okay. And was there any information in the records, if you know, between those 2 times, that 40-minute gap there?
They gave us a time in advance records.
Okay. And going to the second page of this, on the map here first.
No,
can
I
you tell us
did.
What that
No, he popped in into chat a couple of nights ago and said hello. I think it was on the verdict stream. I think one of those streams that we did 3 trials that one night. He's just working a lot apparently. Poor bugger. I haven't seen him anywhere else because I've been looking, unless he's got incognito.
Dot indicates on this map.
So that red dot indicates 7 Mile and Berg.
And in terms of the circles around that, what do those represent?
The time in advance distance from the cell tower. So that's
I'll
all gonna
message
be
her
around the
now.
7 Mile and Berg area.
And is it fair to say then that this phone was interacting with those towers at the times you indicated around the 7 Mile and Berg area?
Yes.
And can you go back up to the first page? In row 1, what is the time there?
Row 1 is going to be on January 10th of 2024, 23:40, which is 11:40 p.m.
And then the last row, what is the time on the last row?
January 10th of 2024 at 23:59. And that was just because the officer had asked for just that day. It actually indicates that it stays there for a little bit more in the morning.
Okay, how much more in the morning if you know?
We actually have it in the next exhibit.
Oh, perfect. And so that phone on this exhibit, was it there from 11:40 to, at the very least, midnight almost on the 10th, correct?
The 10 events records, yes.
And again, this is time in advance. This is the passive interaction, no input from the phone or the user, correct?
Yes, no calls, no texts, no nothing. This is just the signals that the base station is getting to the device.
And going to exhibit 39. And can you tell us what we're looking at on the first page of 39?
So this is going to be essentially a combination of the last two exhibits that we just saw. So this is going to be from January 10th of 2024 at 9:49 p.m. or 21:49 to January 11th of 2024, the next day or the next morning at 1:34 a.m.
Okay. And going to the second page of this exhibit now. First, on the far left side of the screen, what area is that again that we're looking at?
On the far left of the screen is going to be the red dot indicating 7 Mile and Berg.
And that's the same area that we saw in the last exhibit in 38, correct?
Yes.
And in terms of what rows correspond to that one, how long was that phone there in that area into the next morning on the 11th?
You have, let me see. Okay, so starting with row 1, it's down in the purple area, bottom right-hand screen. You see that the purple dot indicates 4 East Alexandria, which we looked at a map from earlier. And then it goes to it's actually still there around the area of 4 Alexandrine, which is the purple on line 2. Then you see it started traveling up to number 3, which is in the light blue area, which is in the middle one, just above the dark red. And then you see it show to the dark blue after the light blue, which is going to be still traveling north. And then that 7 Mile in Greenfield, which is that blue dot, and then going over to the 7 Mile in Berg.
And the 7 Mile in Greenfield, we looked at that one, I believe it was
We did.
36.
Yes.
And so where does the phone end up and at what time is the last entry for the 7 Mile in Berg area?
So the 7 Mile in Berg area is at 134.13, number 8. And then you see that big kind of curved line, that's actually going to be line number 9. And that's when the device is essentially, moving away from the location.
Okay. And so that phone then was there from, in that area of 7 Mile in Berg from about 12:40 to 1:34.
There's our timer.
Sorry, 11:40.
11:40 p.m. to around 1:34 a.m. on the 11th.
And on the 11th at 1:34 a.m. it starts to move away, which is row number 9 on your first page there.
Yes.
Okay.
We might have to cut this a little bit short.
And you had mentioned earlier that part of the search warrant
And take it up again tomorrow.
T-Mobile includes subscriber information, correct?
Yes.
And did you get the subscriber information for this target phone number that we've been talking about?
Yes.
And do you remember what the name associated with this account was?
One of the subscribers didn't show any information. The other subscriber had, it was spelled wrong. It's like JARIS.
And what was the last name?
Butts.
BUTTS?
I believe so.
May I have one moment?
All right. 1:20 we're at. Let me write that down. Now I've got this stream set to redirect you to the next one, which is the day 3 of Megan Boswell that will start at 1:30. Be there or be. Just saying.
Justice served in an honest fight. True crime tales till the verdict's right. Solving more than just trivial quests, where sentences rule at the defense rests. Justice served in an honest fight. True crime tales till the verdict's right. Solving more than just trivial quests, where sentences rule and the defense rests.